Hello, and thanks for checking out Missed Meals and Cold Coffee. I'm Chef Lethal, and I've had some mild success on the internet as a live streamer, so I thought I'd bring those talents and my own life experiences to chat with you about parenthood. I'll cover topics ranging from infertility to the adoption process, while hopefully having some fun in the meantime. Now, before we get into the episode, my legal team has prepared the following disclaimer.
This podcast is for informational and educational purposes only. Any medical advice or information given by the host, Chef Lethal, or any of his guests should not be taken seriously or acted upon without the express consent of an actual medical professional. Please call your doctor if you experience an erection lasting longer than 4 hours, as this may be an unintended side effect. Please follow Chef Lethal on Twitter at Chef Lethal Plays and on Twitch at twitch.tv/Chef Lethal Plays.
Now, with that out of the way, on to the show. Hello and welcome back to another episode of Missed Meals and Cold Coffee. I am, of course, your host with potentially the most, Chef Lethal, and today we've got a good one. I'm feeling pretty good. That is not entirely true, but if you say it, it can be believed, right? So it is currently the 29th of December in the year 2020. And I don't know about you guys, but I am so happy to see this year go away. It has been a doozy. A lot has happened. As you know, obviously, that's a thing. But this episode won't actually be going live until about mid-January. So if you're live on Twitch, by the way, we are live on Twitch, twitch.tv/Chef Lethal Plays. If you are listening to this in the future, you can go ahead and go over to Twitch, give my channel a follow, and get a notification whenever I go live, because I don't schedule these to go live. I just do them. It is what it is. So yeah, it's we just passed Christmas. It was absolutely bananas. Just so many things about Christmas with a newborn and just exhaustion. It was a challenge, but we got through it. There weren't really many issues. The elder kids had a great Christmas. And we were able to get some cute pictures of Mini Lethal number 3 in a Santa baby onesie underneath the Christmas tree. Like, it's too much. She actually turned 3 months on Christmas Eve, so it's pretty cool. But today, this is show number 5, and we're talking about pregnancy. Now, I am willing to bet that most of you know the process of becoming pregnant. We're not talking about that. We're going to talk about basically how we found out, the circumstances around finding out that we were pregnant, because it's all pretty interesting, especially since we had infertility that we talked about before. So we're going to get into that a little bit. I do want to just do the quick housekeeping and caveats at the front of the show like I normally do. So of course, got to follow my socials to just feed my ego. Twitter, Instagram, I'm at Chef Lethal Plays on there. I've got a YouTube channel. It's youtube.com/c/Chef Lethal Plays. So if you're listening to the audio version of the podcast, you can go there and see the video version. You can see my face and my beanie that I got for Christmas. It's very nice. It's got Bluetooth headphones, so I'm technically wearing double headphones, but it's because it doesn't matter. And then, hey, if you want to buy me a coffee, go to ko-fi.com/Chef Lethal and chuck $1 at my face, and I will be very grateful for you. The audio version, so I'm obviously just recording this at a random time, but I do have the releases scheduled on Wednesdays at 3 p.m. I don't know if it's local time or if it's Eastern time. I don't know, because I don't pay. I'm terrible at this. I'm just surprised I've made it to the 5th recording. If you are familiar with any of my previous internet endeavors, you'll know that I am not very good at the whole consistency thing. So the fact that I've made it this far, especially given the circumstances, is like a big win for the old Chef Lethal here. Got to mention again, we're talking judgment-free zone on the show. Okay, so if you're listening, you are not allowed to judge me for anything I say, because I'm being completely honest. And I will not judge you for any comments that you make, unless you're really stupid. I'm just kidding. I'm kidding. You're all smart and beautiful. But, if you leave a comment or something like that, or share your own anecdote, I'm not going to judge you for any feelings or things that you say, because it's not fair. So you have to remember that we're making a one-sided contract. I know there's a term for it. I learned it in a business law class, but we're making a one-sided contract by listening to this show, you are legally now obligated to not judge me at all. So there you go. Also, I found out recently that my in-laws and some of my other family members listen to the show. So sorry. You may hear some things that you didn't know about me. You may change your opinion of me based on some of the things, but that's what it is. Just to my other audience, that's not my family. I will not let the fact that they may or may not be listening edit how I feel, or some of the things that I say. So we're still, that's not going to change anything. Basically, I'm still going to be me. We're still going to do this thing. And just kind of one thing else that I want to mention about doing the podcast and just streaming in general and just content creation is I'm generally a pretty long-winded person. Just ask my wife, especially telling a story. So it's really cool to kind of have this avenue, this space to just talk and tell the story and take my time, and you can listen to it, you can scrub forward, you can do whatever you want to do. It's pretty neat. Unfortunately, it just means that I can lose my train of thought, or you get stuck in a story where I'm trying to give too many details. I'm trying to be better about that, particularly for the podcast. Like this whole caveat that I'm telling right now is way too long, but we're already 6 minutes in, so we're just going to keep going with it. But anyway, I love it because it's just stream of consciousness, and it's very therapeutic, and I love it. So now, going back, this is show number 5. So going back to show number 2, if you remember, and if you don't, go back and listen to it because you need to. Maybe not. I don't know. There's some stuff in there. So we got married. We got married young, actually, Mrs. Lethal and I. And we, through the process, we had our struggles with infertility. A little bit of her, a little bit of me, and that's just the way it was. And we kind of relegated the fact that we were not going to have our own children, and so we adopted. One thing that I didn't mention in that show, because it's not technically part of the infertility realm, but it kind of contributed to, we feel like, to the situation, was I'm pretty sure I mentioned in that show that Mrs. Lethal had endometriosis that she had to get lasered out. Well, a few months or whatever year after that procedure, she mentioned like she had this pain in her side, or wherever. I don't know human anatomy. She was feeling a pain, and it wasn't going away. And she saw her doctors, and they didn't really say much of anything. Come to find out, she had a massive cyst on one of her ovaries, and she had to go in for a pretty significant surgery, and they removed her ovary. So not only did we have all of the struggles already with infertility, but at this point we were already kind of given up. Like, we had our 2 kids and we were fine. It was just like, okay, that was really like the last stamp on the envelope of, like, the hot wax with the stamp saying, no pregnancy for you. So we're down to 1 ovary, and we're like, okay, well, it is what it is. Well, spoiler alert, as you'll soon find out, if the title of the show wasn't enough for you, we ended up getting pregnant. So the way I found out, and the way that we found out together, we weren't together, but the way that we found out is actually pretty funny, pretty interesting, I think. So every year, Mrs. Lethal pretty much gets bronchitis. It's like clockwork. We can pretty much guarantee around October, November, she's going to get bronchitis, and it's going to be horrible. Like, it's just coughing all the time. And then eventually, after a few weeks, she'll go see the doctor. They'll give her a Z-Pack or whatever, and then it turns out to be okay. But every year, they never will give her medicine, like, proactively. Like, I think one year she tried, like, she went to the doctor for something before the time of inevitability and was like, look, I'm going to get bronchitis in a few weeks. Can you please just give me something? And they're like, no, you got to wait, blah, blah, blah. And of course, a few weeks later, she got bronchitis. Well, last year, so 2019, end of 2019, Mrs. Lethal was planning a trip to go to Georgia, Savannah, Georgia, with her mom, with my mother-in-law. and they were gonna, do girly things and have a good time, mother daughter type stuff. And it was around the time that I think she actually got bronchitis. Like the bronchitis hit while she was on that trip, and it may have been before. The timing is fuzzy for me because I wasn't there, but around that time. So we're probably talking, was that November, September, November, I think, something like that. We'll just say the end of the year ish. And it got bad. So she came home from that trip, and it was just a nasty, nasty bout of bronchitis, and she was coughing like crazy, sometimes coughing blood. um, it was sometimes triggering her vagus nerve, vagus, where she was throwing up. Like it was horrible, and we're like, oh my gosh, this is the worst bronchitis you've ever had. And we kind of just let it go for a few months, and it was, we didn't know what else to do. I think she may have gone to see a doctor and tried to get medicine, and it didn't work. And she was like, well, shoot, okay, so it's bad, so we're having to deal with that. So then Valentine's Day starts rolling around. I gotta take my glasses. My right eye is bothering me now. I can't see a thing. So sorry. So Valentine's Day starts rolling around, and we've been married for a long time. We don't really do anything for Valentine's Day anymore. That's a young man's game. Maybe I'll cook a nice dinner sometimes, but especially with kids, like it's just another day for us. Like we dote on each other all the time, especially Mrs. Lethal. She's the most thoughtful person I know, so we don't need a day, Valentine's Day, to be nice to each other or do nice things. It's just a normal day for us. So Valentine's Day is coming up. It's the 14th of February, in case you are in another country or don't know by some weirdness. I don't know. But so bronchitis was still in effect, and she says to me, like, she was in the bathroom and she was coughing up blood, and she had just thrown up, and she looks at me, she cleans herself, and she goes, if I cough blood one more time, I'm taking myself to the hospital, and I'm not leaving until we figure this out, or it gets figured out, or whatever. And then you can cue the SpongeBob meme where it's like 20 minutes later, and she's packing her stuff to go to the hospital. She said, I'm done with it. This is bad. It's bad, right? So she packs her bag and she says, okay, I'm gonna go. It's about probably 6 o'clock, 5 or 6 o'clock in the evening. And I was like, okay, happy Valentine's Day, love you. So she left. I left me at home with the kids. Obviously we weren't all gonna pile into the car and take her to the hospital because whatever. So then I stayed home, and she was gone forever. Like it felt like an eternity. She was gone. And because she was at the hospital and they were constantly checking on her and running tests and doing this and doing that, I didn't have a really steady line of communication with her. She was just there, and every once in a while I'd get a text like, okay, they're gonna take me to do a CT scan, or, I'm still here, I'm okay, they don't know what it is. So this whole time I'm at home, and like hours are going by, I feed the kids and, send them to bed, and I'm just like, okay. So let me just quickly see, because I feel like, let's see, Valentine's Day was on a Friday, so I didn't have to, I thought maybe I had to work the next day, but I didn't. It was a Friday. So I was just, I'm an old man, I get tired, so it was getting late, and I was like, well, dang, I'm gonna go to sleep. I turned my phone volume up super high so that when she comes or sends me a text to let me know she's coming home, I can hear it, because I was ready to go to sleep. So I got a text from her, like one of the rare texts before she was discharged from the hospital, and it said, I have the craziest story to tell you from the hospital. And I was like, okay. Now, the hospital is a funny place, right? I mean, anyone that's been to a hospital more than once probably has a story that they can relate to about, some wild thing happening in the waiting room, or having an eccentric doctor, or some nut job in the room next to you. Like, there's always a story. So I'm thinking it's something like that, right? I'm like, okay, she must have, we're introverted people, so maybe she met like this really extroverted person in the waiting room in triage, and she just wanted to be left alone. Like, my mind was going crazy with stuff like that. But I was like, okay, well, whatever, I'll just go to sleep and then she can wake me up. So it was after 11 by the time she came home. 11 in the evening by the time she came home. So she was gone for at least 6 hours. And it was nuts. So of course, she woke me up because she had to tell me what the prognosis was and everything. And of course, I wasn't going to just lay in bed. So I dragged myself out of bed. Now, I had been sleeping for probably at least an hour at that point. And if you know anything about sleep cycles, I was likely in the middle of a sleep cycle when she woke me up, because I was basically just sleepwalking over to the couch where she was going to tell me about her hospital visit and tell me this crazy story about the weirdo in the waiting room. And so she, I'm sitting down, I'm kind of like just trying to get my bearings, and she comes over, she's like, hold on, I am starving. I haven't eaten in hours. Like, the whole time she's at the hospital, she didn't eat. I don't think she ate before she even left. She may have grabbed a quick sandwich, but so she was famished. So she went in the fridge, and I had just for some reason bought Lunchables for the kids. They don't really eat them. It was kind of like a treat. So she grabbed a turkey and cheese Lunchable, and we're sitting on the couch, and she's just telling me about some of the things that they were doing, and some of the tests they were running, and kind of what the situation was. And so she's eating this Lunchable, and I'm just staring at her like, okay, you've told me that you had a scan, and you were there for 6 hours. And I'm staring at her, and she's like, oh, you're never gonna guess about this crazy story. And I was like, you're right, that's why I'm staring at you. I want to know. You told me hours ago that you have a crazy story. So she looks at me, and she puts down the Lunchable. Key fact, she puts down the Lunchable and looks at me and says, we're pregnant. And friends, when I tell you that I was silent for 2 minutes, I'm not exaggerating. I didn't say anything. I must correct myself. I am mistaken. I did say something, and then I was silent for about 2 minutes. I said, no, you're not. And she was, yes, I am. It's real. So after I collected myself, she told me more about it. So it was an accident. So they come in, eventually, whatever, the doctor comes in and says, okay, we can't really tell what's going on with you with the coughing and everything. We're going to do a CT scan. You're not pregnant, are you? She's like, oh, no. Of course not. And I said, okay, well, we got to run your blood anyway. So they took a vial of her blood, and they get ready to put her through the CT, and they come back, and they kind of just, she made it seem like it was almost in passing, where they kind of like came in the room, were like, hey, Mrs. Lethal, remember how you said you weren't pregnant? She goes, yes. And they go, well, actually you are. You're pregnant. And she goes, no. She had the exact same reaction I had, which lets you know that we're so interconnected soulmates. She goes, no, I'm not. That's impossible. And they go, no. We got the blood work right here. It is positive. You are pregnant. And she goes, run it again. You have the wrong person. So she made them run her blood again. They took a fresh vial of blood and ran it again. And they came back and said, yeah, you are absolutely pregnant. And that's when it all began. Valentine's Day, we found out that we were pregnant, and she had pneumonia. That was the whole thing of it, is she had pneumonia. And we later, months later, thought, what if it was COVID? But it was not COVID, because she got a test and she doesn't have the antibodies. But it was definitely pneumonia. And so she was pregnant with pneumonia. Great. So anyway, back to the current time, or in the story, the current time, Valentine's Day. I was just sitting on the couch, like completely in shock. We already had 2 kids. Like we had what we thought was the perfect situation, right? So we have a 4-bedroom house. We had each one of our kids in their own bedroom. We had a guest room, relative order in the house. We had a boy, we had a girl, like everything that we had talked about, like through our marriage, through our relationship, we had it. We had, the essentially, the white picket fence and the well, we don't have the cul-de-sac, but we got a nice everything. Everything's nice. And then so immediately it's like, oh, oh shoot, like we're not ready for this. I mean, you're never really ready, but it was like, especially me, like it took me a lot longer to come around to it than it did for LNJ. So, um, so I went back to bed just completely in shock. I didn't know what to think. I didn't know. I just didn't know how to feel at that point. I will say that I wasn't excited. I was terrified and, um, just my brain immediately went to like worst case type scenarios because of our history, especially her history, her medical history. We're kind of in a position where she it was going to be a high risk pregnancy. Like she's a high risk patient for that because she has a history of a blood clot, and that immediately puts you at the top of the list because your blood goes through, because there's so many hormones during pregnancy, it messes with your body. Surprise. And it immediately, like, even for a normal person, it increases your risk just in general. But if you're already susceptible to having a blood clot, then it really jacks you up. So immediately it's like, okay, that's immediately something we have to think about. What do you like? I just didn't know. Like it was crazy. So then a few days, maybe a week, 2 weeks, I don't know, at some short amount of time after, we found out. And in the meantime, in the days and everything, she would just ask me, like, how are you feeling? How's it? Where's your head at? And I was never not honest with her. And there were days I was just like, I don't want a kid. Like, I don't want another kid. I'm fine. I'm good. We're good. We've got a good thing. The 2 kids were testing enough, and then you're going to throw a baby in there. Like, I can't. And then, well, no, we didn't know about COVID yet, so I didn't want that. That's separate. That's next episode. Spoiler, next episode, we talk about having a pregnancy during the time of COVID. But it was kind of like the stages of grief for me, from finding out to the acceptance, and then ultimately the excitement. But yeah, there were a few times where she kind of thought that maybe we lost it. I won't get into too many details. It's not too TMI, but just there were a couple of little tiny little things that, depending on what article you read, said it could be, kind of thing, like, like third cousin, fourth removed type situation. But it was like that could, and the way that our luck would have it, every small percentage thing could be it. Like they always say, oh, there's a 1% chance that you get pregnant with one ovary. Well, guess what? We are part of that 1%. So if there's a 1% chance of something, we kind of had to brace ourselves for that happening. So when she came out one day and was like, I'm kind of worried, this is happening, this is how I feel, and I may have lost it. I was kind of okay with that. I was okay with that because of our faith, abortion was never in the question. Okay. It was never, unless we got to a point where it was like, so high risk that the baby was going to be born with, fingers coming out of her forehead, or, it was going to severely endanger my wife's life. That was never a question. So no matter what happened, we were going to keep this thing, basically. Right. So, it took me a long time to refer to the baby as like the baby. I even told my therapist, like, I had been referring to the time as if it comes to term, because those few small scares that we had, but also just because I was trying to distance myself from the possibility that, either the possibility of being disappointed if I did get attached and we lost it, or that it just depending on how I just totally lost my train of thought because I thought I heard something. But anyway, so kind of like the stages originally, in denial, I don't have the full stages of grief in front of me, but I do know like denial is number one. I would know we're not pregnant. How could we possibly be pregnant? Now here's the thing. February 15th, the day after the hospital, she went back to the store. She went to Publix, the grocery store up the street, and had to buy a few things anyway. And she bought a pregnancy test just because she didn't believe the do blood work that the hospitals did. And she did it, and it was like immediately the most intense plus sign or whatever you're looking for that we'd ever seen. Like it was like, hello, you're definitely pregnant. So anyway, going through the stages of acceptance, basically. So started in denial and then kind of became warming up to the idea of, okay, we're having a baby. And then obviously eventually I got very excited. It took a while. It wasn't like, in February, mid-February found out, and then beginning of March I was excited, or, it was probably April, maybe even past April by the time I was like getting excited. I would say probably April time was about when I was getting okay with it because it was becoming more real. And then beyond that is when I started, like much far beyond that is when I could actually say I was excited. Because I always wanted to be honest about my feelings. I'm very in my feelings. I think that's how the cool kids say it these days. But so I went with, okay, it's happening. We're just gonna have to do what we got to do. To then eventually just saying, okay, we're gonna do what we're gonna do, and I'm pretty happy that this is happening. This is okay. This is not going to be the end of the world for us. And I do have a lot more details about there's some more details coming up in the next show, in the next episode next week. But basically, I went to the first ultrasound where we found out like in picture form that we were pregnant, and that's when it really kind of hit me that it's really happening. I think that was really the second stage. The first stage was denial. The second stage was really kind of like, okay, this is happening. And then after that, it became, I'm okay with this happening. And then after that, it became, I'm excited for this happening. And then it became, it's literally happening right now. 9 months later. But that's really all I can say about it. Our story continues to evolve. It continues to be written. And I gotta say, we probably have one of the most unique pregnancy stories, just in general. Just our whole child acquisition story. Child acquisition. Makes it sound like we're dealing under the table, like we're ravagers or something, but no. Everything's on the up and up, obviously, but it just you look at just over the course of the show here, just what I've been saying, and I haven't even gotten all the details right, but you look at the fact that I essentially went from a place of being totally fine, never having kids, to sitting in the labor and delivery room excited to meet my daughter, so with two existing conditions, I mean kids, at my mother-in-law's house, waiting to come home. So the whole situation's ridiculous in a good way, obviously. It all worked out. It all is working out currently, the best that we can. But that's pretty much our pregnancy story, right? So I'm not going to give any more details because that would be robbing content from future shows. I want to milk this for as many shows as I possibly can while I can, because Lord knows. I was going to record yesterday. Here's a fact. I was going to record yesterday. I get off work, so I'm back to work. I had to actually go back to work on the 23rd. So right before Christmas, I had to go back to work. I had 2 days of work, and then it was Christmas break. So then I had Friday, Saturday, Sunday off, and then had to go back to work again yesterday, Monday. So I get off work at 4. I'm still working at home, and I was like, "Oh man, you know what I'm gonna do? I'm gonna go. I'm gonna go record my next show." And then what ended up happening was I did not record the show because I'm recording it now. I took a nap. Mrs. Lethal was like, "Why don't you go take a nap?" And you don't need to tell me twice to do that, especially with the newborn. So it was her shift to take over. I said, "Yes, dear, I will do that." And then I woke up 2 hours later. That was terrifying. It wasn't terrifying, but it was like, I don't generally like to do that because I try to go to sleep around 10. So then sometimes those late afternoon, early evening naps really mess me up for bedtime. But spoiler alert, it did not mess me up at my bedtime because I was really really tired yesterday. And just a quick check in on the Twitch chat. Yolo McSwaggins is a name I haven't seen in a long time, and Raphack both checking in saying, hey guys, welcome to the podcast. Winding down the podcast. I'll probably stay live for a few minutes afterwards to hang out if you guys want to chat for a bit. But yeah. But regarding the show here, I'm not going to give any more details because again, I want to continue to do this as much as possible. And if I look at my idea list, it's a finite list. Oh, that's another thing I wanted to mention. So one thing about being kind of like embedded in the live streaming world is things happen live, right? Like these beautiful people in my live Twitch chat right now can say what they want to me right now, and I can respond to it right now. But if you're watching this on YouTube, or if you're listening to this on Spotify or Google Podcasts or whatever platform you're listening to this on, it's on a schedule. So like this episode's not going to be released till mid-January. And by that point, I don't know how many other episodes I'll have recorded. So go ahead, if you're listening to this, either if you're in the live chat or if you are listening to this in past the release date, hit me up on Twitter, send me a direct message, join my Discord server if you're interested, discord.gg/lethalgastropub, and hit me up with ideas if you want to hear me talk about a certain topic or get my opinion on things, or if you have questions. One big thing I'm looking for feedback on is an episode I have coming up near the end of my list is I just have the bullet point as why do parents do that, and it's just things that maybe if you don't have a kid, you wonder why parents do certain things, like why do parents refer to their baby's age in months. If it's 2 years old, why are you saying that it's 24 months old? And I can give that answer, or just certain things like that. I have a couple of questions from Twitter that I got a few weeks ago. But there's only so much about my little pea brain can think of. And again, my topic list is finite. I imagine after I reach the end of my bullet points, it may just be anecdotes and stories about, having kids. I don't know. That's where I'm going to be leaning on you, the listener, to, if there's anything, maybe you don't have kids and you're curious why, kids do a certain thing, or how development happens, or maybe you do have kids and you experienced a certain thing and you'd be curious about if we did that or whatever. So it's all different. So I really enjoy doing the show. So the more content I can get out of it is the better, because it just gives me an opportunity to get back in front of the camera, back in front of the microphone, and do something that I love to do. And again, if you receive any amount of help or light bulb moments from the show, I'd love to hear about it, because it makes me feel really warm and fuzzy on the inside and a little bit on the outside, if you know what I'm saying. But yeah, next week we're going to be talking about having our pregnancy during the time of COVID, which is funny because of course now the vaccine is rolling out, but who knows when the general public will be getting vaccinated. We got to get those nanobots injected into our body so the government can track our every move. But yeah, so some different considerations during this time. with social distancing and masks and stuff that made our pregnancy story even more unique than it already is. So once again, I want to give a shout out to my social pages, Instagram, Twitter. I even have a Facebook page for the show. I think it's just, if you just search Chef Lethal Plays, you should find it if you wanted to. There's nothing, I would say there's really nothing unique about the Facebook page. I'm not posting any Facebook exclusive content. It's probably just going to be a rehash of whatever I post on Twitter. But that's that. And then if you want to buy me a coffee, or if you find that you enjoy the content and you want to throw $1 at my face, Ko-fi.com. It's ko-fi.com/Chef Lethal, and it'll give you an opportunity there to throw $1 at my face. Instead of buying yourself a coffee, you can buy me one, because Lord knows I'm drinking a lot of coffee these days. And or heck, go to twitch.tv/Chef Lethal Plays, hit the follow button. If you're really crazy, hit the subscribe button. You can even join the live stream if you catch me live, and you can send a tip live on stream and have me read your message and be immortalized in the audio content that you have been waiting for, or something. I have no idea. Anyway, I want to thank you so much for tuning in to this episode of Missed Meals and Cold Coffee. You gotta join me next week, because I'm going to be talking about the craziness that COVID brought while being pregnant. And I know one person in specific that could use this topic. So until next time, Chef Lethal here, signing off, wishing you a full plate and a fresh, hot coffee.